welcome to Melis Fairy. Today we're going to be talking about the Breath of the Wild side quest special delivery. Before we get started, I want to say thanks to various Reddit users whose posts I used to back up this video. I will link all of them in the description. So this side quest starts when you speak to Finley, a seemingly young Zora who asks for Link's help to deliver a love letter downstream. Once Link arrives at the location, he meets a young Hylian named Sasan, who is love-struck by Finley. He also describes the letter as a love letter and talks about corresponding with Finley and how he lied to her, saying he was a buff traveler and how he fell for her and was dying to meet her. After some more dialogue, Sasan says love reigns supreme and how he's gonna work on his muscles on his way to Zora's domain. Once Link meets up with them at the domain, they thank him for helping them to meet, and Finley jokes about Sasan having to build up the muscles he promised her, and he calls her my darling. Now, there are various ways that this needs to be analyzed, because everyone who did this quest, myself included, was taken aback by how Breath of the Wild had a side quest to help the romance of a child-looking Zora and a grown man. So let's dig into it. The first issue here is the age. While Finley is canonically implied to be considerably older than Sasan, based on how the Zora age, there are still questions on her level of maturity. Finley says that she is at that awkward Zora age, where she's a young woman but hasn't hit her growth spurt yet. That could be considered as her being on a level of maturity close to Sasan's. However, there are also implications that she's still very much behaving like a child. She talks about her bedtime and how she has promised her mother that she wouldn't venture out too far. She is dependent and has the behavior patterns of someone who is not even a teenager yet. However, she does imply that the reason her mother still babies her is because she hasn't hit her growth spurt yet. This is a gray territory because both possibilities could exist. She could be the equivalent of a teenager or young adult being treated like a child because of how she looks physically. Or she could be the equivalent of a teenager or young adult who has the maturity level of a child due to how she has been raised and developed. Regardless of which one we consider to be true though, the main point is, why is a grown Hylian attracted to a Zora who undeniably looks like a child? Regardless of her age or development, the fact is incredibly troublesome. It is also not uncommon in Japanese culture to portray older women in children's bodies in games, animes, and the like, which is a subject of controversy in itself. Which leads us to the closest thing to an explanation that the Breath of the Wild fandom has come up with. This quest got lost in translation. Apparently, the original Japanese dialogue is significantly different than what we got in English. Whereas Finley calls the letter a love letter in the English version, in the Japanese version she just says letter in a bottle. As the dialogue continues, in the Japanese version, the love-struck nature of the characters isn't really present. Nothing is mentioned about love, just that Sasan describes himself as an adventurer with muscles. Finley, in fact, only says, "He wrote, I'm a very muscular adventurer, but his writing is always so delicate, so I think that he must certainly be a very wonderful person." There is also a difference in the way Sasan refers to Finley. In the English version, he calls her a lovely Zora, but in the Japanese version he says the sender seems to be a female Zora named Finley. He is also not dying to meet her. What he says in Japanese is, "Even if I wanted to meet her, I'm a bit hesitant," in reference to him lying to her about being buff, which leads to another huge difference, which is instead of the love reigns supreme dialogue that follows that in the English version, in the original the line is, "It's what's inside that counts." In fact, when they meet each other, in the Japanese version she tells him he should get stronger so they can go on adventures together, to which he just replies with, "I will try," as opposed to the "I want to try my best for my darling Finley" that we get in the English version. I guess the question is, why did they change the dialogue so much in the English version? Who approved this? And honestly, even though the Japanese version can be interpreted as much more of a friendship situation, why make an older Zora look so young in the first place? It's questionable to say the least. Or should all of this not even be questioned in this matter because the way Zora's age is so unknown and incomparable to Hylian's? Do we know enough about the way they developed to judge? What do you guys think? Is this a total normal quest when you look at the original Japanese version? Or is it a bit wrong no matter how you look at it? Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.